you should be good, yeah.
Okay, good morning. We're going to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting on Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We'll do our roll call.
Jim Nickel.
Don Thomas,
Heidi Youngworth.
Dan Allers.
Randy Peniagua, and along me is Jason Freeman, the interim public works director, who will briefly introduce himself.
Yeah, I'll go up to the public comment, but.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Jason Freeman for the record. I got another meeting to go to, but just wanted to introduce myself. I'll be taking over for Chelsea. About 4 years ago, I worked with Chelsea, actually helping with the Public Safety Committee, so I've worked with a couple of you already. But just wanted to introduce myself and just I'm excited to work with you all. Worked with Chelsea in Public Works for about 2 years and then switched over to contracts in the deputy clerk position, and then was fortunate enough to be selected here for the interim, taking over for Chelsea. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me. Chelsea will still be here for about 2 weeks. We're kind of in a transition period, but looking forward to working with all of you.
welcome.
Welcome.
We look forward to making you work hard. I'm kidding. Okay, approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second.
All right, motion approved. Sign that. All right, public comment. I guess it's you.
We have two here.
We have two. Do we want to start with do you want to start?
Nope, he doesn't want to go.
Okay, perfect.
No problem.
He's here for the show. For the record, Steve Johnson. I'm the chair of the Marine Resource Task Force, and I have a request that we potentially extend the public comment for the sake of any question and answer period regarding the topic that the MRF is bringing to the Public Safety Committee.
I'll make a motion to extend the public comment section.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful, thank you, and I will make it quick. I'd like to start by apologizing for the kind of clunky document I sent. I had issues printing it, and I'm not sure if it transferred through okay or not. The red was coming through, but I'll go ahead and use that as a backdrop here for just a quick discussion. The background, well, first, the Marine Resource Task Force has looked at the Fort Myers Beach municipal projects for marine resource issues and feel that there are some public safety concerns, and we wanted to really present them to the Public Safety Committee to understand whether there is potentially an involvement that the Public Safety Committee would like to be involved with. So the background here is that the town is pursuing a number of different projects, and specifically today we're really talking about what I call the Times Square Bayside Park Corridor. So there's a park project at Times Square, and as you all probably well know, and also Bayside Park, but will ultimately include Old San Carlos Boulevard. So the safety concerns really revolve around the use of using different colored lights. Without the benefit of any type of transition lighting, which was in fact recommended by our town lighting consultant when Rob Phelan from LEDOT at one of the stakeholders meetings had discussed the fact that at one point potentially if Estero Boulevard was white light and the county was going to be putting in amber light, how would they manage that? And she answered it by saying there needs to be transition lighting, and that's not present in any of these plans. Also, the Times Square photometric plan is using currently white lighting for 6 months of the year and amber lighting for 6 months of the year. And specifically, if you look at the photometric plan, which again, I'm sure you're not going to be able to read any of that. I can quickly just point out a few things. But at the perimeter of the plan, the lighting will be about 6.5 times, a maximum of 6.5 times difference, let's say at Times Square at the curb to walking into the roadway, which is illuminated, will be illuminated at 1 foot candle And again, we don't want to get too technical here, but basically it's a six and a half time difference. And really the last item with regards to the mixture of light is that there's dark adaptation, concerns for pedestrians and also for drivers with regards to moving through high and low light areas, as well as a mixture of light. And it should be noted that this is exacerbated in elderly eyes, which are more highly affected. So there's some notes there about really what dark adaptation is. I mean, all of you have had sort of eye confusion before walking out of white light or bright light into dark light, or different colored light, or from low light into white light as you wait for your pupils to adjust. So on page 2, this is really a pretty rough drawing of the roadway lighting in the municipal projects. So everything that's highlighted in yellow is going to be amber. So every roadway coming from the FDOT Matanzas Pass Bridge all the way down Estero, as well as the numbered streets and Crescent Street are planned to be amber all year long. Lynn Hall Park next to Times Square also will be illuminated and has a project currently that will be illuminating in all amber all year long. So there's really 2 beacons for 6 months of the year. It's Times Square and it's Bayside Park, and I believe the intention is for Old San Carlos Boulevard to also be potentially lit white for 6 months of the year. So I don't know if you can see, there are red marks on my sheet. There isn't. My printer cartridge is a little dead here, but I think looking at Dan's here that I do see it. So the areas of concern are the periphery of Times Square along 5th Street, and specifically the busiest crosswalk in town, pedestrian crosswalk in town, which is at the Old San Carlos Boulevard and 5th Avenue crosswalk. That'll be amber all year long. For 6 months of the year, you'll be walking from white light in Times Square through that yellow light, and then potentially into, again, it's undetermined at this point, into white light onto Old San Carlos Boulevard. At the same time, you have vehicular traffic moving through that intersection, and so that's an area of concern. And in addition, there are obviously the intersections of Old San Carlos and 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th Streets, which can potentially cause some problems. Any other notes there? Nope. So if you want to go to really number 3 here, the photometric plan, and again, I don't know how well this reproduced, but basically what this is meant to show you is that there are some circled red dots. Those are higher illumination levels. Technically, from our municipal lighting ordinance, you're not allowed to have more than a half a foot candle, so a half of whatever you would like to call it, of light at the perimeter of the property. In this case, they're up to 6.5 times as high. So the point, I guess, that we're making here is that that anybody stepping off the curb, let's say, even at the 5th Street and Estero Boulevard crosswalks that will be put in by FDOT, will be walking from, let's say, that highest right-hand corner circle is actually 5-foot candles, or 5, let's just call it 5, and you'll be stepping into a different color light that is not as illuminated, a 1-foot candle. So the Marine Resource Task Force feels like there's a safety concern whether or not that could cause problems with specifically pedestrian and bicycle traffic. Okay, so let's go on to number 4. As I mentioned, I'm trying to make this quick for you. The other issue, I had updated this morning and thought I could print it out when I got here, and I wasn't able to. But not included on here really is also the lighting levels. Specifically, let's say for Bayside Park, for the 6 months that'll be white light, there will be, there's limits of how much light you can put on the ground. Basically, there's 2 times as much light in the park during the white light season as the summer, the amber season. And so a question we had is, why does that have to be? There's no reason that we have to suffer the amount of illumination in the park during the summer just because of the change of color of light. Again, the color of light has nothing to do with how much actual light is illuminated onto the surface. So, and the same thing goes for Times Square, basically. During white light, it will be literally brighter, meaning more light. Brighter is probably not a good word, but it'll be just brighter than in the summer. because of, and I don't know if that's an artifact of the fixture that they're using or not, but there's no reason there can't be more light. The purpose of the amber is, of course, for the sea turtle ordinance, and that's a longer wavelength, but it really doesn't have anything to do with how quote-unquote bright the light is. So a question is why do we have to have a reduction in actually the amount of light that's in that public space? And last but not least, just as a reminder, back in May, you all participated in the Estero Roadway project, and this was your recommendation to Town Council at that time from the Public Safety Advisory Committee. And I quote, it says, "We recommend light uniformity along the entire length of Estero Boulevard. The light solution must be consistent for the entire year, both in and out of turtle season, and whatever solution is recommended to the council should ensure the best possible alternative for pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicle operators, and should not be reduced during turtle season. The end result of reducing the lighting efficiency during specific periods would basically be saying that human safety is less of a priority at various times of the year. So the Public Safety Committee believes that is an unacceptable position." So, having said that, the Marine Resource Task Force thought that it would be prudent to bring this to the Public Safety Committee's attention, and that's it.
Thank you. You want to comment? I have a couple comments, and I'm sure you have a couple comments. I guess I'll speak for myself. I don't see any change from my opinion from the public safety message that we made in May 2021 as what is written in this document. After watching yesterday's town council meeting, which Dan can enlighten us, no pun intended, on what happened and some of the issues, I really do believe we still have a consistent light solution through the whole island. I think that it is more safe instead of changing, and I guess I don't see any difference from what we had said in May of 2021.
I agree. It should all be the same.
Correct.
How many foot candles of light does FDOT recommend at a crosswalk for pedestrian safety?
That's a great question. I can tell you that I know the roadways are illuminated. FDOT requirements are at 1 foot candle. So at the crosswalks, Jim, I can't be sure, but I can.
Don't know if we don't know if there's a difference in their recommendation.
Yeah. I mean, to that.
Crosswalk to just traveled portion of the road, or if it's the same throughout.
Well, that's a good question, though, because to your point, I think right now the fifth, what I call the Times Square Old San Carlos crosswalk, I believe, is probably lit higher than 1 foot candle. There's never been a photometric study there, but there are 3 lights at that crosswalk, so it's potentially higher. Yeah.
You made a comment earlier that you said it's the town's rule to have 1 foot candle on the side, on the street?
The municipal ordinance says that, without exception, there can be no more than 0.5, a half a foot candle at the perimeter of the property that's being lighted. And that's there, so there's no light trespass.
Is that for personal property or public
No,
property or all property?
No, all property. Actually, personal property, it has to be 0.2 foot candles up to 10 feet into your neighbor's property, so for residential. But there's a blanket standard there that says there cannot be more than a half a foot candle at the perimeter of the property. And also the photometric study here does not have, I can't be 100% sure that what that outside line is the perimeter of the property. I'm not sure. I can tell you, I know for Bay Oaks, they did I've seen a photometric plan where they actually outline the property and show what those measurements are, and then they come in and start showing the measurements throughout the whole surface area. So I can't be sure about that.
Well, it seems to me where public property, where these properties come together from, say, FDOT responsibility and state responsibility or county road responsibility and then the town responsibility, I'm not sure I think we have to be working with the county and the state and FDOT on the lighting solution that's going to occur in that transition zone, as opposed to arbitrarily trying to follow a rule that might be applicable in a different location where you don't have those kind of properties matching up to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm no expert, but I'm not sure that the state or the county has a say with with anything that's done on private property, meaning the municipal property.
Right. I understand that, but I would expect that we would have cooperation in determining what that's going to be. And that's why I was asking the question about what is the state recommendation for foot candles at that crosswalk as it goes across San Carlos Boulevard there.
Yeah, I think that's readily available, so that's something that could be looked up, yeah.
Okay.
Good, all
And
set?
Any other comment?
I do have a few comments and a few questions for Steve. Thanks for coming in. In Bayside Park, the lighting that was there before, how many of those lights were visible from the sea nesting turtle grounds?
I'm not sure, yeah.
And how many of the new ones will be?
I'm not sure.
Okay. In the last 5 or 10 years, how many sea turtle nests have been found in the San Carlos Boulevard corridor?
Well, with all respect, this the reason we're here is for safety. I mean, that's.
No, I get it.
not
I'm just for my information.
Okay, so can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
In the San Carlos Boulevard corridor, how many, so if you want to expand that,
The old San Carlos Boulevard, you're saying, the
Yes,
corridor that
yeah.
we're discussing, uh-huh?
yeah, how many sea turtle nests have been there in, say, the last 5 years? 10
I'm
years?
not absolutely
Okay.
sure.
Well, that's fine. Those are the two questions I had. The couple comments that I have is, the town's fully aware when the lights have to be amber. The lights that they're talking about here will be amber for 6 months out of the year. So I get a little bit annoyed, if I'm honest, that your eyes are gonna have to change going from one zone to the other, because it's been very clear that consistency is the most important part for lighting the boulevard, as well as San Carlos, Bayside Park. So it could potentially be a 3,000 Kelvin light, and then the next morning and the next night you walk down that road, it's gonna be amber. So it's not like you're going to be going from white to amber, white to amber, white to amber. It's also important to mention that these lights that are getting put in are fully color changeable as well as dimmable. So the foot candle issue can be alleviated or can be adjusted,
At least managed.
at least matched, correct. So you can, each fixture will be on the network, so you will be able to adjust the intensity of one, drop the intensity of other. So the photometric studies are very important because they tell you kind of a base starting ground that you're gonna start. You can adjust that very easily. I mean, Mike could probably speak to it a little bit better than I could as far as from FPL standpoint. But the technology's there. The council's fully aware of what has to be done to make it as safe as possible. And I think everybody knows it very, very much about safety. And if there's an issue that is unforeseen, until this is completely done, we aren't really gonna know what exactly we're dealing with. And I'm sure that we will definitely be made aware if there's a problem. But with the color changing and the dimmable capability that we will have throughout that entire corridor, it will give the town a great deal of flexibility to make it as safe as possible. Those are the only comments I had.
Now,
So- Oh,
if I may, the lights that would be dimmable then would be the ones in the park or on Old San Carlos?
The intent, right now, Bayside Park will be fully dimmable and color changing. The intent is to have the same lighting concept in Times Square, and then also down through, tie it all together, so it's all basically tied together, it'll all be controllable by the town. That's the intention,
That would apply to the streetlights on Old San Carlos as well?
correct. That's my understanding, is that's the direction that I think we've put pretty much forward, that's what we're looking for.
The ones that are somewhat out of our control, at least right now, are the ones on Estero Boulevard.
Correct, and I have asked about getting network capabilities for those. It's available, the technology's there, it's just a matter of if it's in the tariff program. I specifically asked if FPL has used network controllable devices in any FPL tariff program. The answer wasn't very straight, but in the research that I've done and others have done, they have found that it has been used from FPL within the tariff program in other areas. So it's a potential. I mean, we're obviously, if anybody watched the meeting yesterday, could tell that we're still a little bit of ways from getting a final approval on the fixture that everyone hopes will be the solution that we're looking for. And then we'll cross the bridge of being able to hopefully control it, adjust the intensity, shield it, do whatever we need to do. Because I think everyone will agree, no matter what committee you're on or what view you have, that turning the light off is the last resort.
Yes.
So just to maybe clarify, I think you've completely missed the point on the color change concept. It's not a matter of from one day we go from white, the next day we go to amber for 6 months. The point is for 6 months, you have a mixture of light. It's white light and amber light. So for 6 months, for a complete 6 months of the year, you'll be walking from Times Square into amber light, or across into amber light and then back into white light at the intersection. Or if you're driving on any of the numbered streets, you'll be going from amber light into white light and then from white light back into amber light. So, and that's for 6 months. It's just not a sudden thing. It's for the entire half of a year. You'll be using, you'll be taking vehicular and pedestrian traffic and moving them through these light colors for 6 months. Regardless of dimming or regardless of anything, you're changing the color, and that's the safety issue due to dark adaptation and eye confusion and those types of things. So that's what we're sort of bringing here. Does that make sense?
No, well, believe me, I fully understand lighting to its extent.
No, the situation is what I'm asking.
No, I do, but I don't think it's fair to say that that the lights are going to be 3,000 Kelvin, or they're going to be 4,000. They
The
could be
point is
red.
they're
they
white
could-
light.
They could be red. They're color changeable. That's my
The
point.
site light, no, the site lights will be either white, 3K, or amber. I'm not talking about any of the uplights. I'm just talking about the site lights. This has nothing to do with the uplights. That's not a, you know.
Well, and I will get clarification on this because I will admit I don't know that. The overhead lights, if they are color changeable, I don't know that for sure. I assume that they would be, like the rest of the lighting, but I will get clarification on that.
Okay.
Because then there's a difference of light. I understand your point. So then are we going to ask the other businesses that are around there that they have to change their interior lighting? Because there's some very visible lights there that I don't think that they're going to change.
I think as a municipality, you can only do what you can do under your control.
Fair enough.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Steve? No. All right. So before we move forward, since Mike Childs is here now, we'll have to reapprove. Thank you, Steve. We'll have to reapprove the minutes.
Okay. Like to make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, March 15th.
I'll second.
All right. All approved. Done. Okay. Public comment, anybody else? Nope. Okay. Lee County Sheriff, welcome back.
Lieutenant Mark Bernard, Lee County Sheriff's Office. This past Sunday, we just wrapped up our spring break season. Everything went well. There were no major issues, so we're happy to report that. The only other thing that I have is that we have seen a slight uptick in the theft of bicycles and scooters. So we're just reminding people to make sure that they are locked. Our Criminal Investigations Division made an arrest recently, so that person was responsible for quite a few, so that should quell it a little bit. But other than that, we just want to make that reminder just to lock them up. So that's really all I have.
Any questions? I just had a quick, well, are you staying for the whole meeting?
I can.
I just wanted to know if you guys had noticed any uptick in any accidents regarding like crosswalks during spring break with the flux of people and bikes and the highly congested areas.
Actually, for the number of people that were here, no. I mean, it was actually turned out very well.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
I guess I have one question, Mark. How much, if any, social order, I guess I would say, enforcement is happening with the deputies that we have assigned to the island? You know, I live on Estero Road, so I watch what's going on out there down on the south end, and many of the town ordinances are just totally ignored as it relates to pedestrians, as it relates to driving on the road, a lot of speeding, particularly at night, coming out of the Wyndham and the Pinchers area. A lot of cars passing other cars in the center lane when they shouldn't be passing in the center lane. I saw somebody nearly get killed there at the Wyndham Crosswalk where a car had stopped for the pedestrian and the guy coming up behind was very irritated that that car was stopped in the road, so it went right around it and through the center lane, just about ran over the person in the crosswalk because they didn't realize the flashing lights meant something.
Right.
So I guess, you know, I was a policeman and I understand people say there's never a cop around when you need one, but I'm not seeing too much in the way of that kind of enforcement going on. I know you guys are handling calls and I know you guys are patrolling primarily on the north end where a vast majority of the activity is, but gosh, there's so many opportunities for people to get hurt, you know, particularly at night and as things start winding down around 8 or 9 o'clock. And I just wondered if that was how much of a part of their duties they consider that to be, or is it just something beyond the scope of what they're available to do?
Well, as you know, we have the two zone deputies assigned to the beach.
Right.
They do handle our calls for service, but when they're not handling those calls for service, they are enforcing the town ordinances or the state statutes. What we also do is that when time permits, we instruct the duty sergeants to get as many of the deputies together as he or she can to conduct some special enforcement, traffic enforcement down here. I know for a fact that we've run a couple operations down here on Estero, also on San Carlos. Obviously, West District also encompasses other.
Right, you have a
vast
lot of
area.
demands on you there. I know.
We've had some complaints on the Sanibel Causeway, so the guys and girls have been out there enforcing the traffic statutes out there as well. So as much as possible, we do get out there. I could say that you'll probably always, when you're out and about driving, you'll probably always see something that's happening in front of you that, yeah, there won't be someone around to enforce it.
Sure, I understand.
I know I had a discussion with Mike a couple months ago about some violations down by where he lives. And that next morning, our deputies had roll call down there and actually stayed out there for a couple hours. So,
They get anybody?
no,
Crazy, it is.
right? So they're
This
out
kind of
there.
enforcement is hard.
They're out there for a while and they had no violations. And so, I mean, that's not to say there aren't, but it's just, it's a random thing, you know?
Right.
It just depends on the drivers and the public's, whoever's in that car's attitude at the time.
Right. We see a lot of, particularly in the evening when Pinchers is winding down, they come out and they get in the car or get on the motorcycle and you can hear them wind it out. I mean, it's a big, as the mayor said, it's a big wide open road now. And at that hour, there's not a lot of traffic on the road. So they wind it out. And you know that they're doing 50, 60 miles an hour down the middle of Estero Boulevard when they wind it out like that.
It helps us if that at a particular place, at a particular time, you see this, certainly contact us and we will,
Maybe
an
schedule
area check.
some enforcement in that area.
right, because if you're seeing it and it's in a particular area and you want us to be in that area, then certainly call us and we will put that special request in.
I have a question. Is there a reason why we don't have officers on bicycles?
Well, in order to ride the bike, we do have the bicycles. In order to ride them, they have to take a course, which over the past 2 years with COVID, some of the training has been knocked back. So we are working on having another bike course coming up. The further issue with that is that when you have two deputies on the beach, if I put one on a bike and then the other deputy is at the south end requesting help, then he's got to ride his bike back to his car, lock up the bike. I would say it would be more of a detail type thing. If we're like, for say, New Year's Eve, we actually discussed it for New Year's, bringing two bike certified deputies on the detail and having them just up and down. But it's just, at the moment, it's just not conducive to the enforcement right now.
What about,
Go ahead.
what about like next year, say for like, we're gonna say from Christmas to Easter? What about something like that where we get 2 extra deputies that are on bicycle?
But if the
I mean, is
town-
that
if the town
something that
wants a
we can-
special detail,
Right, go to the town with?
you could, and then we can find deputies that are bike certified, and that would be the requirement for them to sign up for that detail, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure. I think we have 5 bicycles in West District. We have them.
If we had adopted the community policing program, would that have given us more flexibility in selective enforcement situations like this?
Sure, because you would have had your 2 deputies that are working the zones, and then you have these other deputies that are the so-called CP deputies that could pick a particular day that they're just gonna come out and do enforcement on bicycles, sure. It comes down to manpower. I mean, certainly, we have the 2 deputies on the beach. We typically have 5 to 6 up on the mainland. We can't take one of those 5 or 6 and then put them on a bike and bring them back to the beach. We need to cover all of our zones in the district.
Absolutely.
But we have discussed it. We're always looking into different ways to improve the enforcement down here on the beach.
So the ways that if I'm, maybe correct me if I'm not misunderstanding, but the ways you're indicating is we could essentially pay the county extra money to add a couple of deputies through that would be available to either be in vehicles or on bicycles or on foot, whatever seemed to be the most appropriate during that period of time that we call season. And then after season, they go away and that bill goes off our tab. Or we could implement a year-round community policing program and have those officers available to us for one thing or another during the course of the entire year.
Right, well, the community policing, we've gone through that.
Right.
Well,
I'm going to ask you, I hope I don't put you on the spot too much. Economically, which of the 2 of those? Just asking.
Calculations right here, you would probably have to go through the process. As far as the town, if you considered it as a business, it would be like any other business, like Target or Walmart. You want extra security, you want a deputy on site with specific functions or specific requests. It would go through our details program. So I can't give you an absolute answer on that, but I would think that just as a business can request that, the town can request it and say the town would like to pay 2 deputies from whatever start time to whatever finish time
During a period of,
to patrol
yeah.
Estero Boulevard from, say, wherever, Lanikai, over to Lynn Hall.
Wherever.
And if the special request was, we would like them on bicycles, if it was approved through our command or the details, we could do that. The requirement would be that the deputies are bike certified.
Yeah, I know that we already have extra deputies that the town probably pays for part of them, as well as the county provides additional deputies during the season for that area up there around the Lanikai and Times Square and whatnot. And I guess, it was a great question about bicycles, because I think that could help having them around, more visible, interacting with people. It's kind of like community policing halved, so to speak.
We did. I know one of our community service support units, the new CSUs, which were the old voice guys, was utilizing it for the parade over on St. Patrick's Day. I know he was riding up and down the route on the bike, so it's utilized. But like I said, we can't pull one of the deputies off and put him on the bicycle, and then we need to ensure the safety of the deputies working on the beach. If it's just, you can't get down to the south end of the beach quick on a bike, so
Right.
it would,
I have one other question. So if we did add the community policing, would we still get our 2 dedicated officers plus our community policing officers?
yes, there are 2 zone deputies assigned to the
Okay.
beach, yes,
So they would not leave us if we had community policing?
that is correct.
Interesting. Thanks.
And I don't know, Jim, if you, the dollar amount that is rough dollar amount, per deputy for community policing is about $125,000 per deputy,
Per year, that's for all 12 months.
correct? So the two that we were initially discussing at last year's budget was about a $250,000 line item. But with that, it includes obviously the full resources of the helicopters, the jet skis, the bikes, the patrol cars, everything that is in the arsenal of the Lee County Sheriff's Office is included in that price. And with those two deputies that would be here year-round, that would lessen some of the costs, I would believe, that we would need during special times of the year that we pay Lee County Sheriff's Office for extra enforcement. If that helps answer your question.
Sure.
I don't know the exact dollar amounts that the town spent
Right.
over the last year on added deputies, but that's something to consider going forward.
Okay.
I thought we also discussed last year, though, that 4 really wasn't enough for community policing, that that Lee County Sheriff, when they came in, they thought we would need more than 4.
I mean,
So if we ever
Well,
did readdress it, it wasn't.
We were initially discussing 2, and the general consensus was that 2 wouldn't necessarily be enough. So the more you add, you just essentially add another $120,000 or
Right,
$125,000 per year to the town's budget that would be required to have that additional safety.
And as far as the details, you can certainly contact our details unit, and then they will give you the hourly cost per deputy.
Okay, so if we were going to do
And that would,
something less than a full commitment to community policing, say from January to May 1st, we wanted to pay for a 2 or 3 additional deputies that would be kind of available for policing the entire island, not just the Lanakai region. And
and
then,
it's generally it's a specific request.
okay,
It would be a specific request for, you'd have to write up a
proposal,
request,
yeah,
okay?
I get,
And then, of course, that would not guarantee that those spots would always get filled. And it's like any of our detail positions, it's extra duty.
Right.
So you're drawing from the deputies that are off duty, and they are, basically, they sign up
for the OT.
as they would like to work.
I ran a lot of details like
Right.
that.
So, this past, it's winding down now because baseball was it was a limited spring training season. So, and then obviously spring break, it's over now, so there's more deputies available. There's less details
Right,
open right now.
okay.
Real quick, last question. The bike theft, was that someone local that was, or was off-island
I'll check.
bike ring?
Well, it was
Is it
off.
public record?
It was off island.
Okay.
It was off island.
Did someone ask what their name was? So I said, I'll ask.
I don't have his name.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Fire. Scott.
Morning. Scott Worth for the Fire Department. So for March, pretty typical month. We were fortunate we had no structure fires. You'll see in the report we had 389 calls. That same month last year was 399, but the distribution between EMS fire was about the same. So fairly typical. In March, we did, to follow up on what Mark said, we did have a few critical vehicle versus bicycles. So, we saw those types of injuries. But, like Mark also said, it was a very busy spring break this year. But all in all, the call volume was pretty consistent. We didn't see anything that was an outlier as far as call types and call volume.
Have you, when you respond to calls up in the downtown area, say from Lanakai up to Times Square, have you had any difficulty with people interfering with your ability to get in and do what you need to do, particularly in medical situations, or has everything gone pretty smooth, just pretty in and out, no problem?
Everything's gone pretty smooth, and I attribute that to the Sheriff's Department, because when we have those situations where we're responding to a fight or something like that, we rely on them to secure the scene before we go in, and
In my experience, they're generally there
yeah, they're
as fast as you are to help with that. And we've had a few incidents down in the south end where I saw the very same thing. The deputies were there practically as fast as 33s, so.
yes. So the other thing I would say is that fire department is ramping up. We've already started our preparations for the upcoming hurricane season. Hate to say it, but it's coming. So just a reminder to everybody out there to check their plans, make sure they have their supplies, and, you know, they're ready to secure their structures if they need to leave, so.
Do we have new hurricane passes for the season that we need to pick
I
up?
believe they remain the same color,
Okay,
but I'll
the
check on
purple.
that. Yep, the purple one.
Make sure you have your hurricane passes to get back on the island. All right, any other questions? I don't have anything.
How's the new fire department building coming along, the plans?
It's coming along. We're working with the architects, and we've seen quite a difference in the per square foot prices.
Yeah.
So that's slowing us down a little bit, trying to figure out, you know, how we're going to make it work, but plans are continuing.
Do you have any potential date or a target date as far as starting construction?
Not at this point. We probably, on our initial schedule, we probably have about 40 weeks remaining for the design phase. But again, with the construction costs being what they are, it's caused us to have to, you know, revise our schedule a little bit, but I don't have a start date at this point. So,
All right, thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, next agenda item, bicycle lights, bells, distribution plan. I'll give my update. I have not heard back from the school. I've emailed them out again, so I will try. We are ramping down. I know that town council, or the town was gonna send out people to the bike rental places.
Yes.
And do we have an update on that?
Not as far as I know.
Okay. I've noticed bells, I just can't tell if there's lights on there. But,
I've been seeing lights on the rental. Since this ordinance went into effect kind of mid-season this year, I didn't expect to see a tremendous change
right,
during this particular rental season, heavy rental season, but I would hope that the town would be able to get out through the course of the summer and talk to every vendor now that's going to be renting bikes on the island and get these lights and bells on the bikes before they do the rental.
right, as well as rental agencies for
Right.
their homes. Okay, I don't think I have anything else on that.
No, but I've been looking up lights, good lights. I walk every morning, dark. So there's a guy who rides around in our neighborhood with it's called a night rider. I just figured that the safety committee, we need to have good lights on our bikes.
I have Christmas lights on mine, so it's all lit up. It's the easiest way.
That's a night rider.
Okay.
Put that on there.
It's a bright, bright light. I mean, I'm down at the end of the street and he turns the corner and I think it's a car back there. So, I just want to mention, when Mark said that me and him talked, but down in front of my house, I live between the two curves down there by the church in Sterling. In between there's just a lot of passing going on. They just come off that curve and pass right there.
Well, we'll have more time this year to check it out in the off-season. Bike lanes and markings. I'm gonna go off topic a little bit here. I wanted to give everybody an update. Rob Phelan from Lee County DOT has been corresponding back and forth with me. And I want to read you a little bit about what he's been saying because it has to do with bike lanes, crosswalks, even though I didn't have crosswalks on here. I wonder if I should bring this in member comments. No, I'm bringing it in now. Okay, anyway, Rob Phelan did say that they would do a study during March for us to check out the crosswalk situation as it relates also to the bike lanes and what's going on with bikes on the sidewalks and everything like that. So I'm gonna read a little bit. All right, and I don't want to be redundant here, and I apologize. I couldn't print them off. All right. Okay, they did do a study in May, and they did notice some,
May or March?
March, I'm sorry, hang on a minute. Okay, we got our results back from our consultant's review and are moving forward with further review of the green bike lanes. Lee County is working with a vendor for a demonstration project in other parts of the county to review the use of green bike lanes markings. I'll respond back directly. So then I wrote back and asked him about, that's great, keep us posted on the green bike lanes, but also about the crosswalks. And he said, they also noticed that we do have excessive crosswalk. We have areas on our island where the crosswalks are not safe. One of the things that brought up yesterday in the meeting in town council was the 1.4 million that Lee County was designating for our crosswalks. They said, well, you can use that for your lighting on the island. So now we've got this little battle, and I'd like to go back to Lee County and ask for that money back for our crosswalks. But one of the things that they have suggested us to do is create let me see, I'm gonna go back. He sent me so many emails here. We need to create a list and rank all the crosswalks based on if they're safe or not safe, or their danger level, I guess, or their level. And I wrote back and I said, where can we find this criteria? Because I think it's pretty personal what I think is bad, and I would rather do it on facts if there was people, hit on this crosswalk, or how many people actually use that crosswalk daily. And I'm waiting back for his answer. But then he said the next step is that what we do is the Public Safety Committee takes all our crosswalks, we rank and say which are the most dangerous down to the least. Then we go to the town council, present it to town council. They then go to Lee County to ask for them to add the additional funds and the additional lighting, whatever we want to have happen for those crosswalks. And then Lee County approves it. So we have to give the recommendation.
This seems like it would be a somewhat subjective evaluation on our part, absent,
That's what I said.
absent any statistical data. Now, I mean, there are some things that make common sense. Again, I'm going to opine a little on the south end there in front of Santini. There is a crosswalk at the Wyndham, a crosswalk at Linnell, a crosswalk in the middle of the shopping center. It goes over to the 7-Eleven, and a crosswalk at the end of the shopping center. So you have all of these crosswalks together, along with a lot of pedestrian traffic on the sidewalks and bicycle and vehicular traffic and driveways. And it's a nightmare to not, I mean, I think you're lucky to get through there alive, to tell you the truth, if you were.
It's like playing Pac-Man.
It is. I mean,
Frogger.
it's because, you're doing a couple of things. I think they kept the crosswalks that had been in place historically down in that area. And they're trying not to make pedestrians have to walk too far, because the first thing that happens is they won't use the crosswalk. They'll just cross the street where it's convenient.
Well, one of the comments, they said, we cannot say every crosswalk, we want every crosswalk. They will nil and void that out. They said that is not viable. DOT will review the list of requested by the town consideration for future programming for crosswalk enhancements. So I guess I need to find out, get an answer back from him of what their criteria is.
Right.
The other thing that I feel we need to add on this island is, and I've noted, I don't know if it's diminished since spring break has ended, but with the construction going on around the exit by TPI where they've blocked it off, I've seen every day numerous people with bikes, pedestrians crossing right at that base of the bridge, both directions, and people are not seeing them. And we've always talked about having, once everything is completed, some type of barrier where it forces people to the designated crosswalk, so we get them away from shooting out in the middle of the lane. But I don't know if there's something we can do as a temporary, saying, please do not cross, dangerous crosswalk, or danger, please cross at the crosswalk, or something to that extent. I mean, it is.
Are you talking at Fifth Street where it comes out at the base of the bridge, or?
Literally at the base of the bridge, not even till you get to Fifth Street. You're not even there yet. So you're coming down the base of the bridge, you've got the exit where people are coming off this way by the lighthouse.
Right, that's
Fifth Street,
that's
yes.
what I was thinking,
Right
right
there,
where that
but then
lighthouse-
also, you go a little farther, and there's that parking lot to the right-hand side, as you're coming off the bridge. There's a Wynn's or one of the stores is right there.
Right.
They're going in that parking lot and crossing, 70 feet in front of the crosswalk that's down by Times Square. So there's two spots where they're coming across because that's where they can get across the road to get over to the TPI side or to the Lighthouse side.
Dan, do we have an ordinance that says you're not allowed to cross the street within so many 100 feet of a crosswalk?
Not that I'm aware of, but
We had those ordinances in Ohio, and it was helpful to at least give law enforcement the opportunity, if they needed to herd people to corners and crosswalks, as opposed to just crossing in the middle of the street. Now, I don't even know if Florida would allow us to do that, but it's usually like within 100 feet of a crosswalk. So you could actually give someone a ticket if they crossed into the street within 100 feet of the crosswalk, that was just not going to the crosswalk.
if I remember correctly, there was some discussion about jaywalking or how it,
Yeah.
it's not illegal in the
Right.
state of Florida. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that would fall within an ordinance that could be passed by
I
the
know.
town.
We'd have to inquire as to whether there would be an advantage to, and again, none of that works if we don't have law enforcement that can, I call it social enforcement. It's for these minor things that help provide orders, in a community as opposed to crime. But they're still important because people get hurt otherwise.
Ordinances, as you said, they're only as good as the paper they're written on if there's nobody to enforce them or.
Correct.
It seems like, personally, this is just my opinion, you look at North Estero Boulevard and how it's landscaped. You don't see very many people crossing, not at a crosswalk there, because it's less convenient to cut through and get through the bushes, whereas all the way down through Estero, you can kind of walk across the street anywhere you want. The town has now taken over the vegetation of that. Once not Estero's done, the county has given us the authority and the money to be able to vegetate it, if you will, how we want. And there's been some discussion already about what vegetation is gonna go in there. Maybe there's a chance to get some higher elevation to help guide people. You're always gonna have the people that are gonna do what they wanna do, and there's nothing we can do about that. But, suggestive direction with some vegetation could be a way to look at that.
Right.
Can't you cross the street at a 90-degree anywhere?
I think you could, unless there was an ordinance that said if you're within 100 feet of a crosswalk, you're required to use the crosswalk. Again, we'd have to have our town attorney make a determination as to whether or not we would be allowed to have an ordinance like that in the state of Florida. Otherwise, what value are crosswalks if I can go 12 feet down the road and walk into the middle of the street and cross? So I think for public safety, you're trying to encourage people to use them. But I think that law that you're referring to, Mike, was designed for areas where there aren't crosswalks, readily available, and people would cut across the road in a diagonal fashion and be on the pavement much longer that way than just going across, straight across. And I think that's why the state of Florida, we have a lot of rural areas here where there are no crosswalks. So I think that's why they provided some direction in that regard.
With the jaywalking, I was under the understanding you had to have 2 traffic lights in order to write jaywalking tickets, and they could only be written between those lights.
Well, that's sort of the same concept as.
Right.
You can't cross the street within 100 feet because those are crosswalks. Those traffic lights are gonna be
Right.
designated crosswalks.
So once they put in the other traffic light, it was to my understanding that if they cross in between, they're not at a crosswalk, that they could get a jaywalking ticket, but I could be wrong.
Well, maybe it's possible that either this committee or the Lee County Sheriff's Office, it could provide, in conjunction with our town attorney, give council some ideas or about how they might be able to, what ordinances we would be allowed to implement in that area and what enforcement capacity that the sheriff would have in that area, so that I feel pretty confident that it wouldn't take very long if the word was out. If you just wander into the street when you're 25 feet from the crosswalk, someone's gonna probably grab you and give you a ticket. Now, maybe warnings would be what would be mostly happening, but that'd be okay too. I think people would get the message that, hey, there's a crosswalk right up the street, use it.
You know, while we're on the crosswalks, Madam Chair, if I made just some clarification, the money that you were referring to for the crosswalks, that was to overhead illuminate the crosswalks.
Okay.
That wasn't money that was earmarked for the beacons or anything on the ground.
Okay.
That was specifically meant to illuminate over the crosswalk.
Okay,
So I don't believe there was any money in the county's budget to do any kind of.
anything for us during the day.
Right, and then to kind of touch on how you determine which crosswalks are more important than others, you know, maybe potentially a good start is, as you well know, we've gotten emails about Linnell Road crossing, we get those all the time. Fairview Isles is another one.
Right.
And just driving the road, the eye test, you could see which crosswalks are used much more than other crosswalks. There are some that you never see people on, and then there's some like Linnell and Fairview Isles that every day there's someone. I don't think I've ever driven that road and not seen at least one person crossing at one of those two crosswalks.
Well, maybe what we can do is two things. Ask Randy to ask the town if, first of all, what type of, we've got to be getting commentary from people to make changes to those crosswalks that are coming into the town. If we can get any of the correspondence that's coming in saying problems that they're having, that would be the first one.
There's also been, I've had some residents reach out to say that they'd be willing to pay for the crosswalks if they can just get the authority, the beacons, if
You
they
mean the
could just,
beacons.
Yep.
if they could just get the authority from, so if you could go through the process of naming, you start with 5 or 10 or whatever it is, as you said, they were very clear that don't just tell us you need every, beacon
Right.
in every crosswalk, because that's not gonna happen. But I think we could probably name off the top of our heads pretty quickly 5 crosswalks
It would probably greatly benefit, yeah.
that would greatly benefit. And, if there's some willingness in that community that they'll all pitch in and get it done. If, I'm sure the county would have no problem saying, go ahead and go with it. Now, I don't want to speak for the county, but I can tell you that they're very concerned about public safety as much as we are. I talk to Commissioner Sandelli all the time, and it's a big concern for him. And if we can give them data, whether it's emails, video, anything we can give them, to show them that these are areas that we really see are very important, that need to have some sort of alert device to let people know that there's people crossing there. I'm sure we can get some leeway as to come up with ways to get it done.
Those new lights that they've put in are very bright. I think that's helpful. There are some little technical issues I think they may have to look at. I noticed it has like a radar in front of the button, so you don't have to touch the button. If you just wave your hand in front of the button, the lights will turn on. So almost like if you tried to push it, but you didn't push it hard enough, it's still gonna turn on. And that's okay, except that when it starts raining, the sign directly above it says, please wait for traffic to stop and cross with caution. Well, then the water accumulates on the sign, it runs down and drips in front of the button and activates the motion sensor, and then the lights are on the entire time it's raining because it thinks there's some hand passing in front of that button. And I don't know if they can reduce the sensitivity, or it's just,
Shield it or
or put a little thing to catch the water coming off the sign. It happened the other night, and I'm like, that is weird. Why is that happening? So happened to be a workers down there the next day, and I went down and we discussed it, and he pointed out what the issues are related to that. It's great technology they installed, but it's got that issue.
Think of everything, right?
I know, and it does rain here sometimes.
A little bit.
So what would you recommend would be the most effective and efficient way for us to create a list and rank it? I mean, do you?
I think we need to get a list of every single crosswalk.
Okay. Randy?
Okay.
And then let's also see what other commentary you've gotten from complaints. And then I know
And then
that,
at our next meeting, we can hash through the list and
okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Is it worthy to ask Public Information Officer to send something out on the website or in their news, say if you have an issue about your crosswalk, please send us a note, or is that going to generate too much? I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing. I would rather hear from people to say if there's more of a consistent theme.
Everybody wants their crosswalk with the flashing light.
I don't agree with that, because I think by the Lani Kai, that thing would be on 24/7. So do you need that? You tend to go slow there anyway. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't even have a problem there, because you're constantly on your toes watching, so you're aware of it.
Red Coconut, same thing.
Right, well, and they've got the lights.
have the lights,
They have
yeah.
the
They
lights,
have
which
the
is
lights.
nice. So you do watch for it.
I can check with Jenny and see if that's something she can assist us with.
Okay, sounds good.
Mark, do you get any feedback from the deputies down here on the island about where they think there are problems, but it's like, there's not much we can do about it, but that's a big problem area?
Well, obviously, the area around the Lani Kai is probably has the heaviest pedestrian traffic. That's not to say that the deputies are there more than anywhere else, but that's probably your heaviest pedestrian traffic. But you also have their crosswalks, they're pretty consistent in that area, so.
Right.
It's human nature for someone, if they want to go to the beach and the crosswalks all the way down here, they're going to cross straight across from where they're coming from. So you made the point, like, you can't have a crosswalk every,
Right.
Right.
when you're talking about crosswalks and the legality of it, really right now, the crosswalks determine who has the right of way. So if you're within the crosswalk, the pedestrian has the right of way. So it's the obligation of the drivers to yield to the pedestrians. When you're not in a crosswalk, it's the vehicles that have the right of way. So it's the obligation of the pedestrians before they cross to make sure there's not vehicles coming. So you can cross outside of a crosswalk, but now it's on you to yield the right of way to the vehicles. And so that's really how the laws right now are set up. Funneling people into crosswalks or making it, that's the discussion you're talking about. How do you make sure that people cross at the crosswalks, or that they're legally obligated to cross at those crosswalks? That's the discussion you're having. But right now, it's basically who has the right of way. So if you step out in front of a car and you get hit and you're not in a crosswalk, well, you didn't yield the right of way to the vehicles. You have the obligation to make sure there's no cars coming.
So the pedestrian would get the ticket in that
Yeah.
case, yeah.
Yep. But now if they're crossing within the crosswalk and the vehicles aren't yielding to them, now it's the vehicles.
Vehicle will get the ticket.
Correct.
All right. Okay, we should be good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's all I have to say on the bike lanes marking, so we should be getting some updates on if we're gonna get green and what they're thinking of doing for the bike lanes, as well as we'll start our process of ranking these crosswalks and see what we can come up with. Public safety webpage education update, I really don't have anything there. Does any, Jenny keeps sending out information to the island. I think they're doing a good job. And if we have anything that needs to come up, we just continue to add it.
Right.
Light outage reports. Mike, did you have anything to update on this? You were gonna,
No, did you bring in that paperwork that FPL sent us?
I'm not sure.
you emailed the
Recall.
light, you had the light map?
Yeah, the light man.
Yep, I emailed that to everyone in the committee.
You're referring to the one the amount of lights that are on Estero on the side streets, is that the one you're talking about? I remember seeing that one.
Yeah, the
come up.
blue light map, yep.
And it was in our packet yesterday, too.
I think that's just gonna go hand in hand with the discussion for the lights and what's going on in the next 4 months.
Well, that'll be the second part of it. The first part is getting a
Figuring out what we're
light.
gonna get.
And then you can do the study as to how many lights you're gonna need, how many poles you're gonna need, all that.
Right.
Comes after you decide which light you're gonna use.
Correct. And based on yesterday, we're waiting until the approval from the saltwater tank comes through, and then we'll see if it's viable.
Yeah, they're
What the next
saying,
step
they
is.
told us roughly July.
Right.
Would be the timeframe that they should be able to conclude the testing.
And they also, there was a contradictory comment. There was one that said then they'd have to manufacture it if we went with it, but then someone else got up and said, no, these lights actually have been being manufactured. That was correct? Am I correct on that?
That's what they told us, yes.
Another point I thought I heard in that was if a light is visible to the beach during turtle season, whether it's amber or white, they're going to turn it off anyhow.
No, any light, whether it's amber or any other color temperature, cannot be visible from the turtle nesting grounds. They will first try to shield it. If that doesn't work, then the next step would be to shut it off, yes.
Okay. Even if it was amber?
even if it was amber, yes.
All right.
I guess I have one more question.
Go ahead.
for Dan. So can you shield the whiter light sufficiently, or is it just too challenging to do that? Or, I know that there was the back and forth about white light or amber light, and I know council has decided they would like probably an amber solution.
Well,
But-
the discussion has been that FWC would not approve, or the approval process for a 3,000 Kelvin temperature would be much more difficult to get FWC sign off on. But to answer your direct question, can you shield a 3,000 Kelvin temperature like you can in amber? Absolutely. They can be directional, they can be shielded, the color temperature does not affect whether or not it can be shielded. Now, how much of that light, the intensity, all that comes into play, but there are ways to point and shield any light to do what you want it to do. I mean, if you look at your house, you can take a beam of light and have it just completely on your art and not even bleed over to the wall. So there's ways to do things. It's just a matter of FWC and their requirements and what they would sign off on and what they wouldn't. And it's my understanding that FWC would not support any light except for amber, or if they did, it would take quite a while for them to get through the approval process.
Okay, good, thank you.
And I think as we've talked about it, it's, the importance is getting the road lit, not necessarily whether it's amber or the importance is making sure that the coverage is there, no matter what color it is.
Right.
And I think that we've moved down that road far enough to where if we can get this fixture through the approval process, everyone seems comfortable with, this could be the solution that everybody's hoping for. So now it's in FPL's hands to tell us if it can get within the tariff program or not.
Okay, good.
Okay, MPO meeting updates? I don't have anything.
Nothing.
Nothing? All right. Member items?
Nope, I don't have any. I already talked about all the ones.
I had mine was with,
I don't have anything today.
No, I'm just, this map we have,
Mhm.
we need to blow it up, if you can blow it up so we can see it.
Yeah, I can print it out if you need that.
Okay.
Perfect.
Keep that on the
mm-hmm,
agenda.
okay. Public comment?
Did you have any items, Dan?
Dan?
No, I just had an idea that maybe if you're gonna blow that up, if you can get the crosswalk somehow on that same,
Okay, yeah, I can try to edit
Make
them.
I'd
one-
like to put it on the public information site too.
yeah,
so
then
people
you
can
could
see
have
my
where the
stuff.
lights are.
Yeah,
Maybe there's a way to even put, each pole has a number. Maybe if you can get the pole number in conjunction with the pole that it's at and get it out to the public, that way, we can get more people. If they have access to that map and they can see that if light is out, they can call it in
they
based off
can
of
look
that.
at it easily online instead of
Right.
counting or doing whatever.
Or trying to, where do I look on the pole to
Right.
find it? They can, if it's out there, they can see, here's where the crosswalks are, here's where the lights are. This crosswalk, the light's out, just for public information, maybe just a suggestion.
I think it's a great idea.
I actually did a call out on it and listed each street that was on there too, for my thing, so I can see if I have that and send it to you.
Okay.
Good idea. All right, public comment? Anyone? Nothing? Okay. Well, the next meeting's agenda is,
May 17th.
what is it again?
May 17th?
May 17th. Everybody's good with that? All right. And I think we're going to make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Good meeting.
It's so hard. Okay.
Thank you.
It's so hard, like when he says you have to
We
rank
had that in
the
the meeting
crosswalks.
yesterday.
I'm like, how am I gonna do that?
That
How am I
map,
gonna rank a crosswalk?
Yeah, we had that map before you shared it that was.
Hey, was there a fire last night? I was gonna ask this, but I thought it really wasn't public. I wonder if it was, they were doing, I go, is that a grill? And my son's like, Mom, there's not a grill that has that much. It was over kind of by, looked like it might have been by Crescent. Nothing? Okay, well, then maybe it was a grill. I wonder if they were like doing, like SOBs was doing something, because, I mean, it was billowing, and I'm like, oh my God. there's
He
people
cornered Jim when I was coming in and was talking to Jim. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.